Next, Representative Franzen moves House File 4566 to be laid over for possible inclusion. Representative Franzen, when you are ready, to your bill.
All right, let's do a little change of pace here, huh? Let's move on to House File 4566. Thank you again for this bill. House File 4566 is in response to the recent OLA report that came out March 17th. DHS investigations of alleged kickbacks in the Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Program, where the OLA said the department should amend its administrative rule to define fraud to clearly include kickbacks. Members, since my time here, I have heard about kickbacks. I've also heard kickbacks don't really exist. I've also heard that it's racist to talk about kickbacks, especially because they don't exist. Well, we find out indeed that kickbacks do exist. This bill requires the commissioner to use expedited rulemaking to clearly include kickbacks in the definition of fraud. It allows DHS to withhold or reduce payments when there is a verified, credible allegation of fraud, including kickbacks, so that our taxpayer dollars aren't being wasted away. According to the former U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson on the EIDBI fraud scheme, said people recruited and paid monthly cash kickback payments to parents to have their children diagnosed and enrolled to receive services at their location. These claims alone cost taxpayers $20 million. For too long, the department has let fraud and kickbacks happen. We should have a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to kickbacks. And Chair Schumacher, I have a testifier today as well.
All right. Next we have former Representative Matt Dan, Policy Fellow at the Center for the American Experiment. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and present your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Matt Dean, and I'm a Policy Fellow with Center of the American Experiment, and it is a great pleasure to be here with you today. I thank Representative Franzen for bringing this bill forward. I have included testimony in your packets, along with some links to some articles as well as the OLA report. So if you see that on your laptop, you can just click on that and refer to that, and also you might want to file that away, because I think it's going to come back between now and the end of session as you're wrapping up and trying to get things buttoned up with conference committee reports. I want to thank Representative Franzen for bringing this forward. The OLA came out on St. Patrick's Day with this, and this is a kickback report, Department Human Services alleged kickbacks in EIBDI program. And what it said is what we've always heard, but never seen before, and now the OLA has gone in and said, yes, indeed, there are kickbacks in autism, which is an extremely expensive program, and it is one that is necessary for kids. Receiving this program is highly intensive, somewhat controversial, and it's been around for a long time. Is this a good use of resources or not? One thing everyone can agree on, it's very, very intensive, it's very expensive. So to get kids signed up for this program is somewhat difficult, and also to get it paid for is very, very expensive. So what that did is that attracted fraud. Those large, large dollars attracted fraud, unfortunately. And what you wouldn't think is that kickbacks are illegal. You know, if you're at Walmart or Target or Cub or wherever you shop and somebody walked out the door with a T-bone steak, probably get stopped and say, well, it wasn't specifically stated that T-bone steaks are indeed theft. You'd probably, a common sense person would say, no, that's theft. Common sense people would say that kickbacks are theft and illegal. And whether they're at DHS, whether they're within the autism program, child care, non-emergency medical transportation, translation, or anything else, that's probably illegal. But what the department said was, no, actually, we have this old 1995 rule that says kickbacks aren't statutorily defined. we need statutory language in order to say that theft is theft. So that is what the DHS has been standing behind for this time, for not going after kickbacks. And what the OLA said was, you need to statutorily define that. For people on this committee, what that means is when DHS is sitting up here, you can say, no, actually, you not only have the authority, but you have the obligation to get that money back and to stop it. So what the OLA said is, legislature put it in statute. That's what this bill does. Also, DHS said put it in statute, so they agree. That's what this does. So our recommendation would be to continue to work with the OLA as well as DHS, as well as the Attorney General to make sure that this language is precise. It's what they need to go forward. And also, as a committee, gives you the tools that you need when DHS is here, to make sure that it's stopped and that people are prosecuted. And also to go after not just the providers that are breaking the law, but also parents and also the people that are engaged in this actual fraud. So that's what this bill does. It's a simple bill. It just corrects that language and moves on. Also, just in the next step, as you do button up for a session, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do at the center is help with any statutory language that is necessary to make sure that people don't get hurt. Fraud is going to be a big portion of this year's bills. And we've heard up here how every single time it seems that there's a cut, we all know who gets cut first. It's the people who need the most help. So that the department is good at doing two things. Basically, everybody around this building is good at doing two things: doing nothing and overreacting. Very good at both. So as you button up those bills, make sure that you don't hurt the people that we're here to help. So with that, just want to thank you for all the work that you do on this committee, and particularly the staff at the end of session. So thanks for all the work that you're doing, and look forward to helping ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Dean, for your testimony. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify in House File 4566? Seeing none, public testimony is closed. Questions for Representative Franson or her testifier? Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, thank you, Representative Franson, for bringing this bill forward. I don't think this bill defines what is considered to be illegal remuneration, which I think we did last session, which is also included under the expedited process, which is section 609.542. Is that the definition that we're using? Because this is adding the, what do you call, kickbacks under the credible allegation, meaning that this is the sanctions that are implemented under 256, under 256B as written right now, .064. It does not define. But also, if you put that language in that section, we're also missing if there's a safe harbor that is included under the federal statute, which is referenced on the back section for the rulemaking. I just wanted to make sure that the language really fits the purpose of the bill before us. Can you really explain how does this differ from the statutes that we, if Megan can remember this, which we worked on to make sure that we have got the correct definition in the federal law as written right now?
Sure, can we go to nonpartisan here? Phone a friend.
Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair and members, in the bill on line 2.2, it cites back to the definition under subdivision 1A of 256B.064, paragraph C. So that references the crime of illegal remuneration that we put into statute last year under 609.542 subdivision 2, and a violation of the relevant federal law. So that does cite back to the existing definitions.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So adding to the credible allegation under this section, does it expand the definition under the federal law 455.23, which is specific in how we have defined that section of the law. I don't want to have the unintended consequences whereby if we put it under the credible allegation and within the federal rules, there is a safe harbor, meaning that there are exceptions included in there, which this definition of credible allegation may end up picking up those sections. And somehow, other places where there are exceptions, they will be included in because now we have added into the law without defining those exceptions.
Ms. Sunderman?
Mr. Chair, members, I would have to get back to you on the impact on federal law with this.
Chair North?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to keep the definitions separate. I think we can define, as we've already done last year, under section 609.542. So we have implemented that change. We have codified kickbacks under Medicaid programs under that section. So if we wanted to expand the process, we can do that. But I just wanted to make sure that the sanctions and the implementation of the federal rules under the safe harbors are not included so that we cannot mingle the two sections. I want to keep the credible allegation under the 455.23, which is also the federal authorization for that, separate from the illegal remuneration.
Thank you, Chair Noor. And I'm sure, of course, because this report came out just a couple weeks ago and we're on deadline, we had to get something put in quickly so we could have a hearing on that piece of it. I'm sure we'll be getting technical assistance from the department soon on some of these pieces so that we can get it done the way that it needs to be done.
Yes.
Thank you, Representative Franzen.
And Mr. Chair, I think that the OLA has clearly defined what needs to be done and what needs to be followed, and we can always rely on the, we can always check back with the OLA to make sure that this bill is meeting their expectations. Does that work?
Chair Noor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. I think we need to get some additional help to understand how does this really fit in, and so we don't create unintended consequences
Sure.
with this addition.
Representative Gander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I really want to emphasize how important this is, and for sure you all can weigh in on it. Suppose I'm an autism provider or acting like one, and suppose I go to Representative Murphy and I say, if you give me $100, I'll provide autism services to your child, whether they need them or not, to the tune of $10,000. I'm making up numbers. So I throw out that enticement. And anyone who comes to me and will give me, I'll give you $100 as an enticement. So in other words, you're not just dealing with that increment of $100. You're dealing with the total increment of all of the care that was not even necessary, that was maybe never provided. So that dollar amount of an enticement, that kickback, is just the tip of the iceberg. The amount that this can save, if we really dig down and find it, is enormous. You know, probably more than we know. And so, again, I thank you, even in the testimony that you gave, stressing the importance of autism is a serious condition. And the honest treatment of autism takes a lot of time. It's complex care. That's why it's such a high dollar amount, and it's absolutely necessary. No one in this room is saying autism is not a real thing. No one in this room is saying we don't need to wonderfully care for folks with autism. We're just going after that other part. And maybe you could weigh in and really show the importance of this with the scale of what it could be in total dollars. Thanks.
Representative Franzen.
Well, I don't know the total dollars, but I do know that $1 of fraud is $1 that's not going to those that need it.
Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative. You bring up an excellent point, particularly for your work on the committee, that the needy shouldn't take the money from the greedy, and that's what's happening here. And also, if you don't have willing folks in the community willing to take that kickback, that stops the demand. So for every $1 of kickback, you're going to see $10 of provider costs. In this case, up to is $1,800 per child per month. in terms of what the OLA was able to find. And that was just 3 instances where they said that we can't move forward, but whenever you get an OLA report, you're just looking at a very, very small sample of the overall amount of fraud that's in the system. And so for every dollar that you pick up, particularly on that, there is many times that in provider costs that are being taken away from kids who need that money, which is what it is.
Representative Gander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's good.
Representative Jacob.
Thank you, Chair Franson, for bringing this bill forward. Sitting on the OLA, or Legislative Audit Commission, immediately read the report, and I have to read just a couple sentences from the report here. OLA says that we disagree that the DHS did not have the ability to act upon allegations of kickbacks without legislative changes. And they go on to explain they identified several ways DHS could have utilized its existing authority to address the allegations of kickbacks. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. It's very unfortunate that it takes legislation to correct a problem that already is legislatively, they could be doing the right thing without this, but thank you for doing this. So very frustrating sitting on that committee and watching this play out.
Thank you, Representative Jacob. Any response to that? Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Schumacher. And to our testifier, to the author, I have a question. As I seem to recall, we had some similar language that was in a previous bill that Representative Hicks had. And what I'm trying to do is there's a little difference in the wording in what I'm seeing in the language here versus what Representative Hicks had. I'm wondering, are we missing something on this one? And what I'm referring to is a bill that Representative Hicks had, which was 3423 that we heard earlier on. We had a DE amendment on it. And in the DE, we had direction of the commissioner for doing almost word for word what's here, but there was an extra section that was added in there that's missing here. And so I'm trying to figure out, the section that's missing was, it's under United States Code Title 42, Section 1320A-7B, parentheses B, parentheses 3, parentheses D. And the reason I'm asking is because as I'm looking at the language, there's a section that she had in hers that's not in this one. And I'm wondering if that means we're missing something in this one that we should have. And so I'm kind of, and not being really deep into this stuff and knowing what this actual section that's not in here right now that was in Representative Hicks, how important that is to have this other section in there. What might we be missing that we should have in this that she had in her original bill?
Is there anyone in the room who would know how to answer Representative Fisher's question? Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair, members, the citation that Representative Fisher noted is the current citation that is in the Minnesota rules, and it's just drafted differently, so it's instructing the commissioner to remove that existing citation that's incorrect and replace it with the citation that is in both bills. It's a difference in drafting approach, essentially, and can be reconciled if this moves forward.
Representative Hicks.
I think the takeaway is that no one listened when Kim talked 3 weeks ago.
That's not true.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to the nonpartisan staff. So under this, the rulemaking section, the federal section, does this bring the entire anti-kickback federal rules, meaning that everything that is within that section, which is included in? I know definitely it changes based on which sections we pick up. So with that section, does it bring the entire anti-kickback rule?
Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair, members, I believe this brings in the entire piece of U.S. code that relates to illegal remunerations, yes.
Chair Knorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we need to be looking into how that can be implemented because it expands the scope of what is already defined in the rules and what's defined also under 609.542. So we'll have more discussion with the agency and also with the experts in the room. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Knorr. Is there anyone else? Any other questions for the bill author? Final word, Representative Franson.
This is a good bill. Thank you.
With that, Representative Franson renews her motion that House File 4566 be laid over for possible inclusion. And so it is.